Stanley Miller.
Thank you very much. It's really I'm happy to be here because this is a very important topic. And I want to begin by saying that we're all immigrants. This is a nation of immigrants. Some of us came here outside of our will, but now I'm here and I want to stay here. This is a great place and a great country, and I'm happy to be part of it. I'd like to begin by saying that the NAACP nationally supports immigration reform. We call it comprehensive immigration reform. It's not giving someone a green light that they can stay here. It's creating a process that they could work through, that they can end up being, real citizens and contributing to our society. My problem that we deal with is that it's a slippery slope. We look at the issue of immigration because it reminds some of us of the issues that we dealt with during the civil rights days of the 50s and the 60s. And often, when you go back a little further, the slave catchers, the activities that they did to bring slaves back to the plantation. If you're on the streets of Cleveland, this issue of immigration does not have a face to it. Because most of us live in urban areas, we don't see the people in Ashtabula or in Lake County that are hovering in the shadows trying to raise a family and go to work every day. I was up there to a meeting, and it was kind of depressing. There was about 50 people huddled in this small room. And I had an opportunity to hear stories, horror stories literally, of how the police and ICE and those organizations go to schools at the time when school is going to be let out because the parents are coming to pick their kids up. Kids come out of school and their parents are laying on the ground being arrested. Those are the things that we hear about. Or that they follow a kid on a bicycle home, and when they get home, they interrogate all the people that are in the house. This is a hearts and minds issue. Although we're asking for very, very good legislation on it, comprehensive legislation, it's an issue of the hearts and minds of people, and we have to understand that these people are coming here for a better way of life. And if they can't get here through the existing methods, we as a nation need to understand and be sensitive that we need comprehensive immigration reform so they could come here, be part of this great country, and survive. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Herman.
Thank you, Len. Thanks you all for coming out today and sharing this discussion with us. In my house, we talk differently about immigrants than I think in many homes. My wife's an immigrant. I'm an immigration lawyer. My 6-year-old daughter, Isabella, tugged in my sleeve recently. She says, "Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be an immigrant." and I don't think she was watching Lou Dobbs, CNN, all those years, being bombarded with the images of illegal aliens crossing the border and Dobbs saying, our country's under attack. We need a new discussion on immigration reform. The country is obsessed with the issue of undocumented immigration. It's an important issue, but it's not the only issue on immigration reform. At a time when the economy is in such dire straits, when unemployment is 10% nationally, 15, 20, 25% in some cities around the country, shouldn't our discussion be how can we leverage immigration reform to drive job creation, to drive the new creation of entrepreneurship, new companies, new technologies in the new economy? That should be the emphasis. And, my co-author Bob Smith from The Plain Dealer and myself started to look at these issues, and how could Cleveland and other cities around the country contribute to this debate? I mean, obviously, we're ground zero in issues of progressive depopulation in the urban core, going through the struggles of transitioning from the old industrial economy to the new economy. This should be our #1 issue in Cleveland. How should we leverage immigration to repopulate and reboot our economy? Well, we started studying some of the data, and the data was astounding. Immigrants, according to the Kauffman Foundation, Small Business Administration, Berkeley, and Duke, have indicated that immigrants are nearly twice as likely than American-born to start a business. That's critical. Why? Because the studies also show that nearly 100% of all net job creation in America since 1980 came from businesses less than 5 years old. They're not coming from big corporations. They're definitely not coming from the government. They're coming from small businesses that grow up to be big businesses. So who are starting the new businesses? In large part, many of them are immigrants. Just look to Silicon Valley. Half of the companies there were founded by immigrants. Half. Google, eBay, Intel, Yahoo, Sun Microsystem. I can go on. 25% of all technology companies around the country have been founded by immigrants. SBA says that 2.2 million jobs have been created in America by immigrants. The question we pose in our book, in Immigrant Inc., is who will create the green technology to create the green jobs that we're hoping for? 4 million new jobs in blue-collar and white-collar jobs. Well, guess what? Go look at the Case laboratories and at Carnegie Mellon and their other technology research institutes around the country. You'll see 50% to two-thirds of those researchers are foreign-born. So the connection between immigration, high-skill immigration, and entrepreneurship and job creation is irrefutable. So, but then we look at our immigration system, and our immigration system doesn't value this demographic. It says, you know what, we don't really want you here. And to give you an example of how this is working, more and more immigrants with PhDs are leaving the United States. Why? Because we're pushing them out. We're making them wait 5, 8, 10 years to get a green card. Now, these folks could have suffered that humiliation 10 years ago because their home countries in China and India and other countries didn't have the vibrant, popping economies and economic opportunities. But guess what? They do now. And not only are those countries saying, we've got room for you to express yourself, your innovation, entrepreneurship, we are going to aggressively recruit you back home. So they're coming here. And for example, the president of Russia was just in Silicon Valley a few weeks ago. What was he doing there? Recruiting Russian-American techies to go back to Moscow, because Moscow is building a tech park there. So it's not just the home countries recruiting their own. It's third countries saying, wait a minute, if America doesn't want these folks, we'll pick them up. So Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, they're now in the hunt for global talent, while we sit here and say, no thank you, no thank you, no thank you. It's so bad that Canada, and particularly Alberta, is sending in recruiting teams onto U.S. soil and looking for our disgruntled high-school immigrants and saying, what are you doing subjecting yourself to this treatment? You know, we value you. We'll give you a green card instantly. We'll give you citizenship in 3 years. You want to be an entrepreneur? Boom, we'll put you on track to be an entrepreneur. So what does our system actually do? Well, our system says, which was designed in 1965, our immigration system, okay, and 1990. For high-skill immigration, it basically says, you know, we discriminate against the highly talented. We give out about 1 million green cards a year. No country is more generous with immigration than we are in that sense. But only 9% of those green cards are specifically reserved for the highest skilled investor immigrants. And the vast majority are for family reunification, which is fine when we needed to populate a huge landmass in the 19th century, you know, when we needed labor in the factories. But what we need to do now is recalibrate our immigration system so that we say we value these highly skilled folks. It's so bad that our system also has a nationality quota in it. So each country can receive no more than 7% of our employment-based visas. So for example, Malawi, which has 10 million people, and India, which has over 1 billion, are treated the same. Once India reaches their quota, 7% of the total amount allotted, they're done. That's why the Indians and the Chinese are disproportionately harmed and are going home now because they're not going to wait 5 or 8 years. You couldn't design a worse system if you tried, if you wanted to leverage immigration for economic growth. A little bit of other data here I wanted to share with you. Since 1990 to 2005, 1/4 of the publicly held venture-backed companies were immigrant. If it's in the high-tech sector, it was 40% were immigrant-founded. Those companies, a market capitalization exceeded $500 billion. So, you know, from our perspective, I think, in Cleveland, Detroit, Pittsburgh, you know, we need a boost. We need to get our economy going, and immigration can really help that along. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Representative Courtney Combs.
Thank you, sir, and it is a pleasure to be here this afternoon. You know, I don't disagree with anything that's been said here today. My focus and my input into this whole situation has come because of the other side of that coin. I've been to the border. I've been to Cochise County, Arizona. I was there in 2007, October 2007, and I returned May 23rd, 24th, and 25th of this year. And the problems are getting worse. They're not getting better. We do need immigrants. I have no argument with that at all. I do have an argument with who is coming into this country, identifying them, and making sure that they're here for the reasons that we've talked about.